Well, hello, patriots, American citizens, and freedom fighters around the world. Thank you so much for joining us here at the We Are J6 live stream that we try to host as many times as we can on a Saturday afternoon at 12 p.m. Eastern. And we are back live today after a few weeks of some silence because the wheels of justice grind ever slowly. But we are glad to be back with you. We are very grateful for everyone joining us today. And the stream's just getting started, so we'll have several thousand more people loading up here shortly, I'm sure. But we are definitely excited to get this brought back to you with some updates. Before we get started, though, as always, we are going to acknowledge our almighty creator and the source of all goodness, because that's kind of the secret sauce to keeping things going in the right direction. That's my belief and what America was founded on. So let's go back to that, and we'll just ask God to join us. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much simply for the fact that you've given us the ability and the opportunity to speak to you, to connect with you in a relationship, just like we do with our brothers and sisters here at We Are J6. God, we invite you into this space knowing that you're real, you're present, you're powerful, and most importantly, that you're good in a world that's full of a lot of really bad stuff. So, Father God, we acknowledge you. We thank you. We just try to orient our hearts and minds to seek that posture of joy and gratitude for the good things that you're doing in our lives and in our country. God, we also ask for mercy and healing on J6ers and their families that have gone through absolute hell. I know personally, and many others are still feeling incredible pain and damage and fear and anxiety. So God, we just claim the peace that only comes from you to heal people's minds and hearts and their bodies. And God, we just ask for your mighty power to perform miracles in this time, and that we would be faithful citizens and faithful servants as you call us to participate in that. So God, we thank you for this time and everything you're doing in our Heavenly Father's name. Amen. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Gold and Attorney Peter Ticktin. Dr. Gold needs no introduction here. Peter Ticktin has joined us before, and in addition to being a legendary freedom fighting attorney, is also a longtime friend of our great president, Donald J. Trump, and a legal advisor to that administration. So he is on the inside on various factors of fighting for justice and has definitely been involved in the pursuit of restorative justice, as we are redefining the term from the leftists, to try to apply both victim recovery for J6 defendants that have been destroyed and government accountability for the sake of our country so this never happens again. So with that, Dr. Gold, please go ahead and tell us what is happening this week.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. We didn't meet for a few weeks because I really like to meet when we have something interesting new to add to the conversation. And it's been a bit of a watching, observing, and talking with people situation. So that was why we took a bit of a pause. Now, we had spoken in the past, and a lot of people, of course, are very interested in what they should do about their own potential legal claims. And I think it's been a few months since we had introduced, I guess, Peter Ticktin and Mark McCloskey and a couple others. And then we gave you their information. And then a lot of us, myself included, were kind of pausing a bit just to see the lay of the land, see where this might go. I mean, was anything going to be coming quickly from the administration? You know, how is it going to look? So here we are now in early September, and there has been no action yet by the administration. So for speaking for myself as a potential plaintiff, and the fact that I went to law school but not giving legal advice, I think for me, it would be time to move forward and to select a legal group, because you do start running into potential statute of limitation problems. And there are a couple ways to go forward. And a fairly straightforward one is to file a kind of a place to hold you in line, I would say, for the Federal Tort Claims Act. And although it is possible to do this yourself, you can always, in legal matters, run into limitations or difficulties or mistakes if you do these things yourself. So I think for most people, it's advisable to hire an attorney to do this for you. There are people who will do this on contingency, so you don't have to put any money out up front. The group really that I think is doing the most numbers of people, it's not the only group, would be Peter Ticktin with Mark McCloskey, and I think there's one or two others. So during this chat, I will actually drop in the way to intake that, the way to kind of access that point is through entry point. Thank you. Is through attorney Mark McCloskey, who my understanding is he'll do most of the intake work. Peter Ticktin will do a lot of the strategy work and making sure, especially if any of these cases go to trial and things like that. But I want to hear more from Peter Ticktin of kind of what the lay of the land is. And after that, I will say a couple more words. I want to thank Peter Ticktin for joining us today. The floor is yours.
Hi. Can you hear me all right? Because I'm.
Yes, you sound great.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Good. Because you're breaking up a little for me. So, and you know they say breaking up is hard to do. So I hope that
they do say that. You sound great, Peter.
Okay. Okay, good. So, basically what we're looking at is we've developed a very good rapport with the people at the Department of Justice that matter, which is Ed Martin and a number of people that are working with Ed Martin and under him. Things have been held up for a long time because, frankly, he wasn't getting funded and he wasn't getting staff. There was a hiring freeze. And anyway, that ended about a little more than a week ago. So now they're gearing up and things are changing. Now, mind you, when it comes to Ed Martin, he's not just doing J6. He's now the election of 2020 czar. I guess Susie Wiles called him that at one point, or the guy in charge of election integrity. So, I mean, he's got a much bigger portfolio than when we started, because first he first started as the U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C., but Congress wouldn't confirm him, or so that ended, and instead he became part of the Department of Justice and the weaponization division of it, and since then it's expanded. But J6 has always been close to his heart. I don't know that you know this, but Ed Martin actually was a criminal defense attorney for a number of the J6 defendants. And once you get involved with what happened to the J6 defendants, once you start living the I don't want to say stories because the reality of what occurred to each and every one of the J6ers.
Yes.
Whether it was from the beginning with the of the arrests, where they pulled the children out of the home, sometimes in cold climates, standing in their underwear outside, and the parents were afraid to move or do anything because they see all these red dots on the children's chests from the sights from the rifles and guns that are pointed at their children. I mean, and that's just the beginning. And I'm not telling anybody here anything new, because you all know. I think I'm saying it more to let you know that I know. And the lawyers, whether it's Mark McCloskey or me or Cindy Powell, some of the lawyers that are involved in this, we all had to learn of this, and it became part of us as well. So, I mean, no, we didn't share a cell, and no, we weren't locked up. But we've been living it with you vicariously through what you went through. And we are determined to get relief for you. But that's in terms of what we're doing. But what I'm here for isn't for me in my practice. What I'm here for today is to kind of fill you in on what I know, which is that Ed Martin is committed to having a process which does a few very important things. Number one, he's agreed that all statutes of limitations will end up being waived. Now, that doesn't take an act of Congress. Congress basically required that there be these time periods, these time limits, what we call statute of limitations. it's funny because statute of limitations is SOL, and SOL also means something else, but they mean the same thing. So if you go beyond the statute of limitations, you're SOL. But the fact is that anyone in any party in any civil action, including the U.S. government, has the right to waive that affirmative defense. And so that's what the Department of Justice is basically advising me that they intend to do. Of course, these promises are not chiseled in stone. They're not even written down. So I can't promise anything except for the fact that my dealings with Ed Martin so far, and he's been a totally honest and decent person. And I'm sure, I have no doubt that that's who and what he really is and how he'll be in the future. So if that's the case, the statute of limitations will be waived. If we can settle with the way that they want to settle, which takes any risk out of whatever amount anybody would get, well, then that makes that easy. But otherwise, you will still have the right to go ahead and sue the government if you think that's your better way of doing it. I think that the general plan is going to be basically to figure out a strategy where everything can be considered and everything has a value to begin with for everybody across the board. So, for instance, if you were arrested, that's got a certain value. If you were not only arrested but tried, and the court did this or the court did that, these different things have different values. If you went to prison, day one has got to be a higher value than day 2 and 3, because just being there and all on its own is its own horrible situation that causes all the memories and all of that that's gone on in many people's lives to be there. Just having the conviction, being part of if you were put on the do not fly list, if you were strip searched, if there's so many different things that have happened to so many, if it caused a divorce, if it caused you to lose your business, all of these things have values. Some of the values have to be variable, such as loss of business. It could have been, where you're making nothing, or it could have been where you're making a great deal, and it could have been where there was a potential. So all of these things need to get figured out in each one of the cases. And every lawsuit yesterday, and I'm not going to mention the person who was involved.
Oh, some breaking news, right?
The prison. Yeah, this is a new development. This is the first of our cases that have been filed.
That's exciting.
And yeah. But meanwhile, think about how horrible this was for this guy. They're supposed to be putting him on one kind of medication. They put him on female hormones, and he grew breasts while in prison. So just imagine what kind of hell this man had to go through. I mean, it's just unimaginable that these kinds of things can happen, but not to any of you, because the unimaginable happened in your own lives and your own realities.
Sure did.
And I understand that. And I think that part of the reason so many of you are tuned in here is because you each understand this, where so many people in the rest of the world just don't. And it ranges from lack of understanding, because how can you know what it's like if you've never experienced anything like it? And it's like, when you talk to somebody, it's kind of like probably describing the taste of an orange to somebody that never tasted an orange. It's impossible to understand.
I agree.
And so that leads to being alone in the world, and being here on this show, in this brings you all together. And hopefully it's curative to a certain point, because you're no longer alone,
right.
And you have each other to
certainly has been the mission. Yeah.
Be able to support each other, which is immeasurably helpful to everybody. I mean, there's a reason why so many veterans after World War II had, their places to go, and they would go week after week after week to be with the people that were in the military, even though they're going ahead with their lives, and their lives are centered in completely civilian situations. But nobody understood what it was like to be on the beaches in Normandy if you weren't there.
Right.
But if you were there, you knew damn well what it was like. So that's what you guys are all doing. You're all American heroes. I mean, we are in a war, and
Yes,
that war is still going on. And for God's sakes, don't think for a second that you have any choice here, but to still be in the fight. Because if you're not in the fight, if you're just thinking about yourself, I understand this. If you want to really think about yourself, you better be thinking on a bigger level, because yes, we won an election. But if Harris were our president right now, believe me, you'd still be in prison.
I would.
Or you'd be getting picked up for a second round.
Uh-huh.
I'd be there with you. But, anybody who's MAGA would be starting to get picked up. I mean, they were going to command this thing big time.
I love your analogy, Peter, about
so we're fighting for our lives and the life.
Yeah. The J6ers, I think, are like fallen comrades, and America has always had a spirit of no man left behind, right? So I think that's what drives We Are J6 and this effort, not just to restore justice, but to pick up fallen soldiers and bring them back up to the line.
Peter, were you?
Yeah, well, you broke up a little there. I didn't hear the rest of it. I heard the first part, but I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
I simply said your analogy was apt to describe the J6ers, and it reminded me of our classic American spirit of no man left behind, as you have articulated the harms that J6ers have gone through. And I think that's part of the spirit of this mission of We Are J6, not only to expose the truth and restore justice, but to pick up fallen soldiers.
Well, think about how we're losing the freedom of speech, because that's really what makes America America.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because we're all different. We're all from different nations with different religions, different everything, and yet for some reason, this combination of people, which is 4% of the population of the world, has 25% of the industry, probably the majority of inventions.
Yep. I
mean, how can it be? And when you think about it, freedom of speech is not just freedom of speech, it's freedom of thought.
Right.
Because every word we speak is a concept.
Cognitive liberty.
If I mention to you a bird, if I mentioned you anything, a bird, well, you could picture that in your mind. And then if I tell you about a green bird with purple spots, well, I've just invented a concept.
Right.
And these words are what make that concept. If we lose the freedom of speech, we'll only be able to use certain thoughts, certain words, but other words will be prohibited. Prohibited words don't get used. The thoughts behind those words don't get used. And so it's not an idea of let's bring the rest of the world up to our level. It's how do we destroy this level and bring us down to everybody else's level. And think about it. There's not a J6er who wasn't a protester. And a protester is somebody who was fighting using the freedom of speech. And the thing that scares them more than anything else is speech. I'm proud to say I represent Tina Peters. And she's in prison right now because that particular judge said that she's more dangerous than violent criminals because of what she might say. And that's why we have our petition for writ of habeas corpus, where we're trying to get the federal court to get her out, because obviously her constitutional right of freedom of speech is what's keeping her in prison. So in any event, so where we are right now is with a government that's now getting organized with a commitment that they're going to take care of the January 6th defendants. didn't even need to be a defendant if you're a January 6er and you're involved. And I got to tell you something, that sometimes it goes two ways. There were a lot of police officers that were duped into things as well. This whole thing was, you've got to understand what this is. This is a cabal. This is a combination of different things. We know now that China is in it like we never knew before. There's something called Act Blue. Can I go on about this, or is this all right to talk about? Or do I have to be just talking about J6?
No, not at all. It's relevant.
Because this is the enemy I'm discussing. Okay. All right. So Act Blue is a fundraising organization for the Democrat causes and the Democrat Party. And really, Act Blue was caught money laundering, yes. In a way, first what was found, like a little old lady had donated times like $5 to the cause, and then on looking at the books, there were like 30 donations a day for $10,000 each. And what they were doing is they were just taking the names of small donors and using their names to give them credit for large donations, which they never could have afforded. It never came from them. It came from other sources, and it was thought that it was coming from the cabal, not the cabal, the cartels. But then they found the secondary way that it was being done, which is to get a mortgage on your house. So, you buy a house for $300,000, and then you decide to refinance. So you refinance the house for $300 million. I know that sounds crazy, because how can you refinance a house for $300 million if the house is only worth $300,000? But this is what was done, and all of a sudden $300 million is coming into circulation somehow from Act Blue through to the Democrat causes. It's a money laundering operation. The Toronto Dominion Bank that was involved in it got fined $1 billion already for what happened. But that was just the beginning of it. Okay, Mark Fincham, he's a state senator in Arizona, and he and a group of people have looked into this, and they added it up, and the total sum that was laundered through Act Blue amounts to well over $1.6 trillion.
Oh my
So
God.
now they know it's not the cartels. I mean, maybe the cartels were involved too, but that couldn't be more than 200 billion. So this is much, much bigger than that. And that's one of the reasons that they're concluding that it had to involve China. Okay. Because I mean, the richest man in the world, all the money that he's got, is a quarter of that, right? So what we're looking at, I mean, we're at war. We're at war with a country that perpetrated a bioweapon on us in 2019. One that, Simone, this is part of your fight in the world to deal with the way they also influence our society to be able to deal with that bioweapon, the COVID vaccine. I mean, we don't know for a fact. We don't have evidence that shows that they intentionally released it. You can believe what you want, but facts are facts. We don't know that fact. But we do know that they intentionally steered it to Western Europe and to Canada and the United States. We know that because they stopped all air traffic, all planes for anybody coming out of Wuhan. They could not go to another Chinese municipality, but they flew them here instead, knowing that they were going to spread this disease. So that was done with intent. In any event, we have them. We have the World Economic Forum doing what they're doing now, being led by Larry Fink, who is the CEO of BlackRock, which has assets of in excess of $11.6 trillion. So, I mean, it's no wonder they own the media. It's no wonder they took over the educational system from K all the way through. It's no wonder they were able to take over the Roman Catholic Church. It's no wonder they have our social media. Thank God we got Twitter or X back. When they did have it all. It's no wonder that they have big business they have it all. The World Economic Forum is thinking that they want to reduce population, which I think the Chinese are watching with glee. It's kind of like a joint suicide pact where China's saying, okay, but you go first.
Right.
Which, yeah. But in any event, you all are a very important part of what has transpired. Don't forget, you are the citizens that cared the most enough to travel to Washington, D.C. to let them know that you were upset about the fact that the vote was stolen. And we have a lot of people that are working hard. And I say a lot of people, but when you think about it, the numbers are actually very limited.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've got hundreds, not thousands. But people like Stephanie Lampert, who has been working on the election fraud materials, we can prove the Minion machines were changing the vote. She is coming up with criminal charges against her, the lawyer that, in fact, she was representing Tina Peters. And the judge threw her off the case because she did something where she exposed something she wasn't supposed to expose. But the fact of the matter, she did what was her duty, and she was right in doing it. But the fact of the matter is that she's charged. They're trying to Tina Peters her because she had the tabulation machines, and they would test it. They put 40,000 votes through these machines over and over, doing it this way, doing it that way, putting them all in for Biden, putting them all in for Trump. It didn't matter what order they put them in and how they mixed them. They always came out 2 for Donald Trump, 4 for Biden. And this is it for the 2020 election.
Is that the state of Colorado?
There's no question those machines were crooked, but not. No, that was in Michigan.
Oh,
and she's being prosecuted in Michigan. So we're dealing with that. I'm representing.
Peter, I think it gives people great comfort that you've been in this fight a long time, and that you so completely understand both J6, which is most of the people listening, and also the bigger place in the world that J6 fits into. I actually think just that gives people a huge amount of comfort, because many people feel it's only other J6ers specifically who can possibly understand. It has gotten broader, but I do think a lot of people still feel that way. So just to hear somebody who wasn't physically there that day, but is awake and paying attention, can absolutely feel the way we feel and put it into the bigger context, I think that is extremely valuable to people listening. I think I'm thanking you on their behalf, because I know that that's how people are feeling.
Yeah. And I can tell you this, Donald Trump knows exactly how you feel as well. He does. I know Donald Trump very, very well. Sorry, I get it. I'm an actually emotional person.
Yeah.
I know Donald Trump because I went to high school with him at New York Military Academy. I've known him since we were each 15. And I can give you examples, but I don't want to take up all your time. Even then, 87 was the year that we really lived together, and we're close. And he had empathy in those days. He doesn't pretend. When he meets with the parents, I mean, I don't think anybody realizes this, but when he meets with the mother of a child that was killed, it has a toll on him. Okay, I mean, he has to go through the grief. He's not. It can happen to him every day of the week, and he's still going to feel it, because I know this man, and I know what he feels. And here you've got a guy who was persecuted. You guys weren't prosecuted. I hope you understand that. You were persecuted. There's a big difference. But he was persecuted. They were trying to put him in prison for a long time. They would have Epsteined him.
Yep.
So it's funny how the lexicon has changed a little bit.
Yes, it is funny.
But the fact of the matter is that He knows exactly what you went through in terms of the trials that you went through. He knows. He doesn't know what it's like to be in prison, but believe me, this man is no fool, and he's not stupid. He knows damn well, and that's why the pardons were on day one. They were on January 20th, the day he took his oath. The pardons were done.
So Peter, could I ask some questions on behalf of people listening who, a lot of whom are J6ers or family members, just specifically about their situation for a moment? I think a lot of people have kind of paused, partly listening to us and partly, these things are hard, about securing legal counsel for themselves. For me, I think the time is now to go forward and start a legal process. A few people have done that in the J6 community, but not many. Most have not really. I know you actually are representing quite a lot, but a few questions. One is, my conclusion is people should get started, and usually that's with a law firm. But it also could be themselves filing that SF-95. But again, we don't want people to make mistakes or shortchange themselves in the future. But do you agree that the time is now? The reason I'm asking that question is I think I was hoping that the administration was going to do something by this time.
Can you hear me?
Have to file. Now we can. I just want to know what you think about the timing, about, jumping at this time. Oh no, is he frozen?
Possibly, yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, definitely frozen.
Okay, so, wait, Peter, are you back?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay, so
I'm
do you
back
think
now.
the time
Yes,
is
I missed
now?
everything.
Do you think that the time is now that people have to start either filing the Federal Tort Claims Act themselves or getting with a lawyer now? We haven't really pushed
You can't wait any longer.
Okay.
Yeah. If you what I talked about with statute of limitations, it's upon us. You need to file a form called an SF-95, which is, if you don't file it, you lose your rights, and then it also starts triggering another set of limitations. But you need to do that. The time is coming very, very close. So I would recommend strongly that you either figure out what to do or get a lawyer. It doesn't have to be Mark McCluskey and me. God knows there are other wonderful lawyers that are doing this work. I haven't heard of any that's a scoundrel or that I have reason to doubt. So go to them. Come to me. Come to Mark McCluskey. He'll the stuff we're doing together. He's doing the intakes. And I'll have a more active role in the later part of it. For instance, that one where if we've had to file a complaint, fell upon me to get that done. Okay, so it got done on time, in the nick of time, but it got done. So don't wait. Don't think that it won't matter. I did say that in the conversations, the statute of limitations will get waived, but that's only something that one person told me he would plan to do, but it doesn't mean that his superiors will tell him that he can do it. I mean, there's no written commitment. There's no real commitment that we can count on that's going to happen. The only way to know your claims are preserved are to act in time. So I strongly urge you to make sure you get that SF-95 form in, and better yet, get it in with the help of counsel, and make sure that when you put in the amount you're seeking, put in a generous amount. You can always get less, but you can't get more. But don't be too crazy either, okay? Because that's
no $2 billion lawsuits.
Correct. No billion. Okay.
Look, let me put something in perspective, okay? I can't talk about what goes on in the other states in the country. But if a person's in a car crash, and because don't forget, you can't get punitive damages against the government. You can get compensation. You cannot get punies. You can't get punitive damages. So if you were in a car crash and you became a paraplegic and you're stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, no feelings, let's just say from about here down. Paraplegic, you still have your arms. Quadriplegic, you don't. Paraplegic, that claim is worth about $6 million. So the people that think that because you went through hell and you went through this, you went through that, that you're entitled to $1 billion, I mean, you're out of line. It's never going to happen. And it's not me telling you this. Any lawyer is going to tell you this because it's the truth. And just so you understand the difference between $1 million and $1 billion, let me just do this very quickly. $1 million is, if I took a stack of $1,000 bills, put one on top of the other, the pile would be $1. 8.5 inches tall. That's $1 billion. $1 million. $1 million. That's enough to change every one of our lives. Okay, that's a lot of money. If we keep adding to that, $1 million, I'm sorry, $1,000 bill on top of another $1,000 bill. They used to have them. They don't make them anymore. But $1,000 bills to get to $1 billion, the pile will be far taller than the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is 550 feet. 8,500 inches is over 700 feet. Okay, that's the difference in $1 million and $1 billion. So please don't be crazy. Don't think your case is worth billions of dollars when a paraplegic who has to suffer the rest of that man or woman's life, that's in the neighborhood of 6 million. So put it in perspective. Understand what your claims are. Don't go crazy in terms of what you think you're going to be able to get. If you have a lawyer that says he can get you $1 billion, what you need is a new lawyer.
Right.
Okay,
so,
it's not going to.
So to everybody, just to kind of repeat, these cases will depend heavily on how the administration responds to it. So filing the SF-95 keeps your place in line. It keeps you from running into potential statute of limitations problem. It also sets the ceiling on what can be. So at the same time, you want to appear to be a credible person, which is why Mr. Ticktin is advising you don't put a number like $1 billion. And he's given you a kind of a ballpark reference of paraplegia getting valued at about 6 million. We know that Ashley Babbitt's settled for 5 million. So say something reasonable. Again, I do think this is worth doing with an attorney. I'm pretty big into self-help whenever possible. But I do think you can get some things a little bit wrong here. It's not that the form is that complicated, but it does set the ceiling for you. Having said that, we hope that the administration looks on all of these claims, with grace and from a sympathetic position. We think that will be the case, but we think the time, is now to get moving. Somebody just dropped a question. I'm so sorry, Peter. What is a list of values for compensation? In the SF-95, which is all we're really talking about right now, they're going to ask you what the claim is worth. You don't have to list each thing. You have to list the harm that you're alleging that the government did, and you then list a kind of a global amount. What I've talked about many times in prior live streams is the We Are J6, 4 of us, Derek, Brandon, myself, and John, had put together a table of harms, but that is really our perspective on it. That doesn't mean that's what the administration is going to do, right? And the numbers we put in were pretty, we thought, realistic. We went through the 4 of us, but I don't think it's relevant in this SF-95 filing. Like, you don't need that. You need to just kind of look at your situation. Maybe, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, you put a number like 5 million or a number like 10 million. That's just kind of my thought.
And also, if you have losses that aren't just personal injury losses,
it's so
put
frustrating.
those losses in. Okay, and if you have extraordinary personal injury losses, such as your wife left you, or your husband left you, or especially if you lost a business.
If your business collapsed, yeah,
and even things that bother you that you don't even know are actionable, put them in. Like, you missed the funeral of your father. I mean, there's
That
so
is a
many
good
things that happen to so many.
Uh,
Put them in, because these are real harmful things. But don't worry about whether they count or not.
right.
You know, if they don't count, okay, fine. Their lawyer or you won't be able to ask for anything for it later. But at least reserve the right to it. It can't hurt. You know, it hurts not to put it in. It doesn't hurt to put it in.
I just want to mention as a point of reference that recently, March of 2024, a Denver jury awarded a woman $4 million because she was wrongly rated by a SWAT team. So most J6ers were wrongly and traumatically rated, as Peter mentioned, by FBI SWAT team raids that were devastating. And I would like to suggest that the precedent says that's worth at least $4 million a pop. In the case of the $4 million award, there was no malice on the intent of the government. It was just a case of mistaken identity, the wrong person. In J6,
Yes,
there's malice. So I think it's at least a $4 million benchmark on that point.
No, I'll tell you why it's not. It's because we don't get a jury on this.
So Peter, may I interrupt for 1 second on that? But we're not talking about what it will settle at. We're kind of wondering the number people can put.
A price
You know
tag.
what I'm saying?
Retail price tag.
Yeah.
The retail, yeah.
But you're looking at an exceptional thing. Like that's an outlier. You had a Colorado Denver jury, and look at Colorado and the judges in Colorado and the juries in Colorado. I mean, that's where Tina Peters is in prison, because she wanted to preserve evidence, because she wanted the truth to be heard. She's in prison. The people who wanted to conceal the truth are the ones that put her in prison, and they're out of prison. So you're looking at Colorado, and you're looking at a jury in Colorado. You're not going to get a jury, and it's not likely, at least for most, that anything occurred in Colorado where you'd be able to choose that jurisdiction. For the most part, it's going to be DC.
Peter, I think people are wondering if they're going to file the SF-95 themselves. And you said that it sets the ceiling, but not to come across as non-serious by putting in $1 billion claim. I threw out a number like 5 million or 10 million. Do you have a feeling as to what people should be writing if they choose to do it themselves?
You know, I don't care what number they put in the SF-95. I don't care if they put in $100 billion or $1 trillion. It doesn't matter. People might, who cares if some administrator laughs at it? You know, what I'm concerned about is this expectation that's going to lead to disappointment. You know, I'm concerned about the people to whom I'm speaking. I'm not concerned about the form as much. So, you know, if you think that, oh, I'm going to do this, I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt you to have that hope and dream, but ultimately that dream's not going to come true. And other people that you're speaking to, they're going to all nod and say, oh, that's great, and so on and so forth. But they might think that you're, you know, crazy, and they might be right. So all I'm trying to do is make sure everybody gets their feet on the ground and lives in the real world. And, you know, because I hear so many people thinking that it's going to be 20 million and so on and so forth. It's not going to be that way. Hopefully it will be generous, and hopefully it will be large amounts, and what I consider, or most lawyers would consider, large amounts, because you don't have a government here that hates you. You know, now you got a president that loves you. You've got the people underneath him. I mean, the guy that's really going to be doing a lot of this was one of the defense counsel that were representing J6ers, and his heart is there. So, and that's why he's in that position.
Okay,
Nobody
so
wants to have the wrong guy there that wants to just cut you off.
So for now, for right now, the advice is to get your SF-95 filed, you know, in the next little time frame, preferably with an attorney, but can be done yourself. I did drop in, and I'll drop in again, if you want to access Peter Ticktin and Mark McCloskey together, I will drop that email in again. You can start with them or another attorney or on your own. Don't limit yourself too low because we don't know what it will be. But if you put a limit, this number you put is the ceiling. So I think we have that. My other hope has always been with the settlement are things that don't affect us individually financially, but the system problems, the systemic problems that were revealed by what happened to us on J6, the judicial corruption, the House, the J6 committee and all that, but like the judicial corruption, there was so much,
malicious prosecution,
the Bureau of Prison. Do you have any optimism that these things, could be put in as part of a settlement, or looking at those things?
No, I don't see that as being part of the settlement, but I do see it as something that the people I talk to at the Department of Justice are extremely concerned about as well. In other words, we now have a government that doesn't like it when a judge in front of a jury, before the jury hears any evidence, starts telling and pointing at the accused and screaming at him that he is an insurrectionist and that he's responsible for killing 5 police officers, which never happened. That's part of the lies that they were spreading. But that judge knows. There's no way that any judge doesn't know that he's poisoning the well and doing something that is absolutely forbidden when they do that. And if they did that in your case, you got to let your lawyer know that that's one of the things that happened, because we want I'll tell you what, I'm, as you know, Simone, because I've been pushing you on this. I want a list of the activist judges and the things that they did wrong. And I want a list of the activist assistant U.S. attorneys and what they did wrong. I've been asked for it. The Department of Justice wants it. I want it. I just haven't been able to get this. Now, my email address, please, if you use McCluskey and me or you don't, it doesn't matter, okay? But my email address is just my initials, PT, not P. Ticktin, not Peter Ticktin, just PT at legalbrains.com, okay? That's it. It's a very easy email address. Please, if you've got a dirty judge or a dirty AUSA, please put that in the subject line, dirty judge and the judge's name, dirty AUSA and the AUSA's name, and then tell me what each one did. Okay, I will put this together and make a presentation to believe me, I could take it all the way to the top. I won't need to. But I will, things will happen. These activist judges, I've been pushing the idea of prosecutions based on the conspiracy to cooperate with the true insurrection, not your insurrection. There was no insurrection by anybody here, unless we have intruders that are listening in on this, in which case, hi guys, be sure to take this to whoever. But the fact of the matter is that there really was an insurrection. The 2020 election was stolen.
That's right.
This is a fact. So
I just want to share
judges that participated in it were participating in an insurrection. So were the AUSAs. These people weren't just doing something wrong for the sake of doing something wrong. They were doing something wrong for the sake of enhancing the insurrection by the cabal. So let's do something about it. Get me that information. How long is it going to take? 5 minutes?
No. I want to really emphasize what Peter Ticktin just said. You all who've been following me from the beginning on this, and I've said to you over and over that we need the statements from the judges. That is the main thing. And then later on, when I started working with Mr. Ticktin, he said the same thing. Now, when you go through transcripts, this is a lot, right? This is a lot. And you guys are the defendants. You know if your judge has said something. Now, the kinds of things that we're looking for that are most helpful is if the judge said something very prejudicial in front of a jury. So, for example, at the time of the jury instruction, did your judge use a word like insurrection or an enemy? Or did he conflate what you did with a mob? Something that the judge said in front of a jury is very important. And things that the judge said that are not just negative, but really something specific that was that would violate what a judge was allowed to do, which is have a predetermination as to your innocent or your guilt, or influence the jury, or influence the lawyers. He's supposed to be very neutral, the judge, or she, like Beryl Howell wasn't, but something very specific. Okay, guys, this is on all of us to do this.
Please do. But also let me cut out a couple of things that I don't want, because you're just going to be causing me extra work.
Exactly.
Please do not give me the fact that the judge said terrible things during your sentencing, because that's past the point of influencing the jury. I need where he influenced the jury in your case, because they all, the fact that they can say what they want during sentencing, just accept that, these dirty bastards and whatever
Corrupt judges
did those things. Okay, fine. We got, some of them you got to live with. But if they did it in front of a jury before the jury decided to influence the jury, then that's what I need.
Yes.
So if you want that judge to end up having to meet and deal with their, let's call them indiscretions, then I'm not afraid. I will do this. Okay. I'm not afraid of the judges. I'm not afraid of the system. Fortunately, I'm not in New York where you can get kicked off the bar the way Rudy Giuliani did. Fortunately, he has another membership. I'm in Florida. I've got a much better bar association. They're not going to kick me off for political purposes, God willing. Okay. So I
want to really reinforce what Peter's saying, which is he can't be flooded with emails that are just how bad your judge is, like people drop in this chat here. It has to be something specific that the judge said before the verdict. It's very important. Did they say something really prejudicial, inaccurate, inflammatory before the verdict? Not just that your judge was terrible. They were pretty much all terrible. May I ask? Yes, before sentencing. The answer is yes, before conviction. Now we know everybody got convicted, but the person who just asked that question, yes, before. He's supposed to be neutral until the verdict. So anything he said after the verdict is more just hyperbole. It's possibly relevant, but before the verdict.
When the jury came back and the foreman had that form that's signed by the jurors, that's the verdict. That went to the judge. That got read by the clerk. Usually, that's the way it's done. Not on TV. The jurors read it on TV. But when that happened, that's the end. So in other words, before the jury deliberated, before they went in to decide whether or not you're innocent or guilty, or guilty or not guilty, I should say. So that's where it counts. Because think about it. The judge is influencing the jury to give a decision that you're guilty. That's where we get them, because they know what they're doing and they know that that's wrong, and there's no way they can talk themselves out of that, especially over and over and over again if I get all of your help. But after the verdict, he can say what he wants. Who does it hurt? It hurts you, it hurts your feelings, it hurts a number of things, but it doesn't make the jury come back with the wrong decision because they've already decided. So that's the point. That's the time. Before that, they've got no excuse. After that, nobody's going to care.
Peter, do you know if the president has watched any movies about J6, like the Epoch Times movie or Nick Searcy's movie, Capital Punishment, or The War on Truth?
Well, I sent him Nick Searcy's movie myself when it came out. But, I mean, he was in Mar-a-Lago then. I don't know that he watched it. I encouraged that he did, but he knows.
Yeah.
He
I was
knows.
just wondering. Okay.
You know, some people need to watch a lot in order to be able to finally get it. He got it. Don't forget, he was persecuted himself, you know, but before that, he got it. You know, he understood from the beginning. It's not like he needed to be educated on it. He was there. He was a part of it. He's a J6er.
He was indicted for the 1512. As were the two of us. So.
Yeah.
All right.
300 others.
And it's not like he wasn't there. He was at the ellipse. Not like he didn't also get cut off of Twitter at that time, on that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Peter,
Let me
thank
just
you.
tell everybody just one more time, unless somebody wants to put it up there or whatever, but it's pt@legalbrains.com. I'll put somebody on it, so every one of these things goes directly to one of the people in my office that will start accumulating all of this.
So I again, just because there's a lot of questions in the chat, I know we're about to wrap, John, thank you, but
Sure.
I just want to really help the lawyers get what they need. The best help you can do as a defendant is if your judge said something prejudicial prior to conviction. Many of us had judge trials, bench trials, not juries. Some of us had juries. The best would be if the judge said something prejudicial prior to a jury and the jury heard it. So sometimes that's at the time of jury instruction. I'm so sorry. Sometimes that's during the proceeding itself. The next best would be if he said something, he or she said something prior to his or her own verdict. The things that are not so helpful for this purpose of judicial, failing to act with a proper judicial temperament would be saying something after sentencing. That's kind of hateful and disgusting and gross. And maybe in a normal world, you could do something about it perhaps, but it's not the level that Mr. Ticktin's looking for. So really reflect on when they said their bad things. Go back and look at the transcript. I myself have gone through quite a number of transcripts, and it's tricky. The judges know what they're doing. Like, they definitely know what they're doing. They might have hated us, but a lot of times they bit their tongue and were a little bit careful prior to the conviction. I know because I've read quite a few. So we're really looking for those statements that are really damning. And it could be one sentence. If they said something prior to the jury going out about the insurrection, or you participating in a riot when you had nothing to do with all this, anything, right? You're just standing there right? Something bad in the presence of the jury prior to the conviction. That's the most important thing. And I dropped the email address again in the chat. And thank you.
Right. Well, let me just add to that. Don't forget what I said about the AUSAs, the assistant U.S. attorneys,
Yes.
the prosecutors.
Yeah.
If you had if you had a bad one that was just didn't care about justice, just wanted to get you, let me know who they are too. We need to get them out if they're still in the Justice Department at the very least.
April Ayers Perez.
Yeah, ours. But what Peter Ticktin is saying, that also the prosecutors are also, unlike defense attorneys, they work for the government, the prosecutors, and they have rules that they have to follow. And if they did things that broke the rules, they can be reprimanded and moved out. The types of things that break the rules would be very overly prejudicial or inaccurate things. It happened in John Strand's trial a lot, that the prosecutors said things that were absolutely inadmissible, went ahead anyway. Those types of examples are also useful.
Exactly. Please, let's get these people out of there because they're still doing it. Look, let me explain this to you. The AUSAs, for the most part, they work from early morning, when they get there until late. Okay. Every one of them is busy prosecuting their cases. They really do put in a lot of hours, the good ones and the bad ones. The bad ones, they're very enthusiastic, but they're they're evil. That doesn't mean they don't work. So if a U.S. attorney, when he takes over, because now most of them, if not all of them, have been taken over by Trump appointees, but they can't just go through and just fire a whole bunch of AUSAs, because who's going to do all that work? Who's going to take care of all the prosecutions, the right prosecutions and the wrong prosecutions? But who's going to do them? So they can't just clean it all out. Let's get all new assistant U.S. attorneys and turn this whole department around. If they did that, then people that you don't want to have on the street will be also walking free. They won't be able to do what they need to do. So we've got that problem. They've got that problem. They cannot en masse get rid of the AUSAs. So let's find the bad ones. Let's at least get rid of them. And I can't get rid of them if nobody's telling me who they are and why. So you now have a voice. Okay. You're literally separation of one from the president of the United States. Let me know who these bastards are.
All right. Well, there's our marching orders for the next week or two. And you guys, we want to just continue to encourage you that you are not alone, as Peter said. And We Are J6 is a community here to support and connect all of you guys, because we are stronger together. That's the truth. And there's important things for us to be doing here. So pt@legalbrains.com is the email address. I put that up on the screen. Dr. Gold put that in the chat. And you can get those materials as he just explained. You can also consider how you want to proceed for your own potential case. And we should get those moving forward so that the Department of Justice can start navigating that path, because that's really important. Also, we have always continued.
Ed Martin wants those names. I just want you to know, it's not just me. He wants those names. He wants this. It's
yes.
Ask for it
on the department corruption. So no one more aware and passionate than myself and Dr. Gold about rooting out corruption in the Department of Justice in terms of malicious prosecution and corrupt and unethical judicial behavior.
John, may I interrupt for 1 second? Just because this is my mantra for 5 years, I don't like when people just complain or wring their hands. You guys are defendants. You need to go through your transcripts. So I'm asking you to do that. It takes work. When I wrote the book, Selective Persecution, it took 2.5 years. I had to do so much research. I had to go back. I had to look at transcripts. I had to look at things. It takes time. But for all of you, it could take maybe half an hour or an hour. And you can go back and you can look at the transcripts. If you do that and you find those bad people, we finally have someone who will do something about it. But we need those eyes on that paper. We need each of you to do about an hour of looking through your own transcripts. Please do it. Thank you.
Yeah, no one will be able to know the case as well as the defendants themselves that went through it. And if you had an attorney representing you, they may be able to give you some assistance or guidance there. But it really is on you, your case and your life. So we encourage you to invest in that, and we're here to support you however we can. We do want to continue to encourage people to film stories and tell their stories. So the persecution testimonial videos, we have made that as easy as possible for you. If you just register at wearej6.com, you get instructions. If you don't see them or need them, you can always email us, info@wearej6.com, or just register again. But please continue to share that website and urge people to join, share the stories, share the mission, and participate in this process where they're going over your transcripts, creating videos to share stories, and pushing your case forward so that we're all helping to move the mission of restorative justice here. And that is our mission. So we continue to soldier on, and we thank you guys very much for joining us, for staying strong, for keeping the faith, and for continuing to believe in America and to fight for her. Liberty is never more than one generation away from extinction, as a great president reminded us. So it is our obligation and duty to remind ourselves, teach our children, and to continue to fight for this day in and day out, each week as we go. So we will stay in touch with you guys via social media. Of course, we're on X and elsewhere at wearej6 and wearej6.com. Please continue to share and register that. proceed with your marching orders. We'll stay in touch, and we will bring you further updates as we get them. And again, very glad for everyone joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Gold and Peter Ticktin, for your time and your expertise and your energies. God bless you guys all, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. And we will see you soon.